You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. I'm going to be your host this evening, Mags. You can find me over on X at Hot Seat Mags, and do not adjust your televisions because we finally have it. The best three back together, right as Ali's screen freezes. So we were together, just so everybody knows, we were together very briefly. I think we have him back now. Of course, I have my two amazing co-hosts. I've got, first of all, Kev. You can find him over on X at the Dynasty Mind. Kev, great to see you, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. That intro was kind of like sex for the first time, wasn't it? Where you like, did that count? But seriously, now I'm looking forward to tonight's show. It's going to be an epic one. We're going to put our names on the line tonight, and we're going to be with. I can't even speak because I'm so excited, Max. How are you doing,
mate? I'm doing great. I've just come back from watching, the greatest athletes in the world in Paris at the Olympics, but they don't compare to you two. Let me tell you that. This is the real best in action right here. And Ali, great to see you again, mate. We're hoping we got a more stable connection here. How are you doing?
If you can hear me, yeah, I'm doing great, mate. It was working absolutely perfectly before we went live, and it's done.
Kind of like sex for the first time.
Indeed, but mate, I'm feeling really good. So we've had a bit of pre-season action, which was just a little taster, a little teaser for us. But it's been a pretty bad few days for injuries, so there's a lot of negativity amongst the Dynasty community, especially for someone like Torren Tracy and people like that. But yeah, other than that, mate, looking forward to tonight's show and picking out some proper wildcard risers for this season.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be a real fun show. Of course, regular listeners to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show, at the end of each episode, we get our amazing guests to choose their fantasy wildcard is what the show's all about. The person that they think is going to see their dynasty value increase the most over the season. But you didn't think we weren't going to give you our fantasy wildcard picks either, did you? So tonight's show, that's going to be what the focus is on. We've got the best three they've given us. Well, we've given us. Sorry, I should say we've given the picks. And then the other guys, they've given their picks as well. The other six, as they're also known, right? So, Kev, Ali, are you guys ready to go?
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
I'm ready to rock. And we're going to kick things off with, the absolute legend himself, the pride of wheels, Paul Pickin. We are starting with his fantasy wildcard pick, and I don't know how we've got to this. It is the man he once dubbed as average, because Paul's chosen Kyle Pitts. Kev, are you shocked as I am that Paul's come a complete 180 in this and gone with Kyle Pitts?
I truly respect Paul for this lack of take lock, where he was right a couple of years ago when he called him average. He didn't have much information to back it up, but his gut was absolutely perfect then. He's a smart guy. Personally, I thought I was expecting Greg Dortch for this pick. But yeah, Kyle Pitts is the player he's gone for. And do you know what? I think he's done a great job here. He's tight end 5 in Dynasty, which a couple of months back maybe it was a little bit lower, tight end 8-9 range. But yeah, look, I think he's gonna really hit his promise this season. I think out of all the moves in Atlanta, he's the player that I'm most confident about making a jump this season from what we've seen in the past couple of years. Someone that a lot of the underlying metrics were really strong. If you remember back to our metric show back in sort of February, March time, he was someone that, despite the output in terms of fantasy points per game, a lot of the hidden stuff was excellent. And I think that situation's got better. QB's got to be better. I think the system that's coming over from the Rams is going to be super for the tight end. So very excited for Kyle Pitts. Tight end 5, he's going to probably have to climb up to sort of Laporta range to win Fantasy Wildcard Riser. But he's got a great chance. Look, he's still young as well. He's still, 24, 25. It's not out of the realm of possibility. People see that number because it's a nice number. He's got a better chance to rise. So great pick by Paul. Great guy. Back to you.
Absolutely. A great pick from a great guy. And on to another great guy. Ali, what do you think about this one?
Hey.
Cheers, Mags. Yeah, it was certainly a shock with Paul going for Pitts after famously calling him average, and pretty much getting it right, especially after his first season looked very promising, but since then it's been pretty average, to be fair. So, but I think it's an absolutely fair pick. I think a lot of people are seeing Kirk Cousins come to Atlanta and just immediately associating, well, Bijan Robinson, this new offensive scheme is going to get going, and Drake London is going to be an absolute dominant wide receiver. But a lot of people are just forgetting about Kyle Pitts and just the upside that he has. So I think that, I think tight end 5 is probably about right in terms of his value right now. I think there's certainly scope to go up, as Kev mentioned, with the age. The fact that he has that in that year 1 shoe what he could be capable of, and I think if he puts it together this year, he's firmly in that elite tight end tier. And I think again, if he just has an average season this year, it'd be probably a bit disappointment. But again, because of his age, he's still going to be ranked as a top 7, top 8 tight end going forward. So you're certainly not going to lose any value, and I think there's a possibility to gain some value. Probably not a lot. I can probably see him being tight end 3 unless he really has an elite season. But certainly the arrow's pointing up for Kyle Pitts in this offense.
I think a big factor of this as well is I kind of feel with Kyle Pitts, remember we're sort of basing this on Keep Trade Cut and the community's value of people. Do you boys not feel like people are just itching to put Kyle Pitts back at number 1, right? People are just like, that's where he belongs. That's where I want him to be. So I feel like if he does have a good season, we will see him just shoot up the board because that's kind of where he was anointed to be. That's where people thought he was going to be. So I feel like the community might even overvalue a good season with Pitts, and that might work well in Paul's favor. And let's not forget that of all the receiving weapons in Atlanta, Kyle Pitts is the only one that's actually shown that he is an NFL caliber player on the field. So let's move on from Kyle Pitts and on to our second pick from the queen of fantasy football herself, Han Rowland, who has, gone according to the book of being an absolute homer, and she's gone for Jermaine Burton of her Cincinnati Bengals. Ali, talk to me about Jermaine Burton. He's currently wide receiver 57. So, I mean, that's how you win this wildcard pick, right? You pick someone all the way down there, hoping they can rise up.
Yeah, and this was a great pick by Hannah, I have to admit. Big fan of this. He was the first name on my list, so I was hoping he was going to fall. But then I saw Hannah, the homer, was picking in front of me, so I thought, actually, there's no chance he's going to fall. And great pick. I think looking at him, there's a lot of buzz about him this week with the first preseason match against the Buccaneers. Scored that touchdown and looked decent. He was running with the third string offense, so he was tearing up the Buccaneers third string defense, but he looked great, and I think that there's no way he's going to stay on that third string offense for very long. He'll be running with the 2s and the 1s very shortly. He's clearly been drafted with T. Higgins, leaving in 2025 in mind. I think the writing is on the wall that T. Higgins will be there this year as they go towards, competing for a Super Bowl. But I don't think they're going to get the deal done when they need to, pay Jamar Chase and likes of that. But yeah, I thought we clearly saw how good Jermaine Burton was when he flashed for Georgia and then transferred to Alabama in college. He had those supposed off-the-field issues that have never really come to light or been proven. There was a weird transfer out of multiple schools. There was an alleged assault of some female. I think she was a Tennessee fan. But obviously the Bengals weren't put off. Maybe some teams were put off, and he was drafted pick 80 in the draft, which, was higher than some people thought because of the issues, but also, high enough where he's got solid draft capital. But all in all, I'm all in on Jermaine Burton. He's someone that I was picking a lot in round 3 of the rookie drafts this year. Someone that I'm excited to see him flash potential in the preseason, working towards that wide receiver 3 role on the team. And honestly, I've had a few trade requests for Jermaine Burton this week, and I've just instantly rejected them. I'm not going to trade him for anything less than, honestly, multiple second round picks or a first round pick. I'm really that high on him. I think that is what his value is going to be this time next off season. So why would I trade him for that right now? So really like Jermaine Burton, and I feel like he could be a top 40, top 30 wide receiver if T. Higgins does leave in free agency next year.
Yeah, Kev, do you think Hannah winning this will depend on, if T. Higgins does leave, which doesn't look likely? Do you think that's the main chance, or if Chase, does what Jamar Chase does and gets injured? Do you think that would also help out the cause?
I think for me, it all comes down to T. Higgins. Like, if he's a number 2 guy, if Burton's a number 2 guy on the Bengals, it's going to be higher than what he is now. Like, and that's however he plays. Like, as long as he plays like average, he's going to instantly bump up. Because you talk about number 2 guy, pass happy offense, Joe Burrow, lots of things like that. If Higgins stays, honestly, I think his ceiling's top 40, probably, just with how you think about some of these wide receiver rooms where there's 3 or 4. It becomes difficult. Like, you look at a team like Green Bay, people are hyping up guys like Dontavian Wicks, and he's wide receiver 50, 60 odd, and there's a lot of steam behind him. So I can't see it happening without T. Higgins, but to me, I think the odds are better that Higgins is gone than he stays. So I think it's a smart pick from Hannah. Obviously, if anybody knows the Bengals, it's the queen of the fantasy wildcard crew. So yeah, I think just logically, without even thinking about Burton as a player, thinking about situation, it's going to rise. And what happens if Burton can recapture some of that form that he's flashed at these various high-power colleges? It's a great shout.
Yeah, I think it's a great shot as well. And it's kind of, you have to dig that far down, like to give yourself the best chance of winning this. So we all know Hannah is a winner, if anything else. So yeah, she's always in with a shot with Jermaine Burton. So I think that's a real solid pick. And hey, maybe, dude, see, this is kind of the thing. I'm never quite sure with teams if they would ever work in this way, but I'm sure some people do it maybe subconsciously. If the Bengals are thinking, we know Higgins is gone, do they just try and work in Burton a little bit more than we expect this year, just to kind of show them the ropes a little bit more? Or you're right, they're in that Super Bowl window, so it's like, well, we kind of need to use T. Higgins as well. So it'll be, I'm really interested to see how Burton works into this offense, but I think they've got a real good player, which pains me to say, because obviously big rivals with the Bengals at the minute. So we'll move on from Jermaine Burton and Hannah's excellent pick, and we'll move on to the third member of our amazing Fantasy Wildcard Rewind team, and that is, of course, Dynasty Pancake himself, Lewis Wood. Lewis going with, I'm not sure if Paul took his phone for this one or not, or what's happened here. Lewis gone for QB11 currently, Kyler Murray. Kev, this is a good pick for me. I don't know about you. What do you think?
I was having the same thoughts as you, Max, in the sense of Paul Pickens got his phone there. Like, we've got a Rams fan taking a Cardinals QB. I mean, that to me is what fantasy is all about, in the sense that there's no homerisms. I mean, I'm not going to call anybody out on this show tonight, but I reckon if you tune in about 15 minutes time, it might become apparent who I'm on about. Kyler Murray from the Rams. I think Kyler Murray at that price, we've already seen the ceiling, like when he's been up in that top 5 before. Yeah. He had that bad injury, came back last season, not fully healthy, no offensive coordinator, half a season, no weapons, and he did really well. He had a great finish to the season. He's in the best situation of his career now with the weapons around him. Marvin Harrison Jr. is meant to be the next big thing. You've got Trey McBride, who a lot of smart people have as tight end 1 in Dynasty. And then you've got Greg Dortch, the main man. I'm not even going to talk about that terrible second-year wide receiver they've got because
come on,
I told you he's crap. But back to Kyler Murray, I love the pick. I think he'll have a great season. If he stays healthy all 16, 17 games, he's going to be a top 6 QB in my eyes. And he's going to rise in your rankings. He's going to jump above your pocket passing, your lack of upside quarterbacks that are in that range. So, I mean, it's a great pick by Lewis to pick Tyrone Tracy. Kyler Murray.
Ali, what do you think about good old Kyler Murray there?
Yeah, I mean it's a solid pick. I think someone that is on my radar, someone that can rise up. I've been tweeting about it that I think again for the second off-season running, Kyler Murray is a buy. I think there's still an upside from quarterback 11. Can't believe he's still in the same sort of dynasty tier on a lot of people's rankings as someone like Trevor Lawrence. What I don't really see the upside compared to a Kyler Murray. When you factor in that he's got stud wide receiver Michael Wilson to throw to, as just because you didn't mention him, Kev, but obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not bad either to come in and be a target. So I think he's got great weapons to throw to. The run game is there. Although the run game was pretty hilarious in week 1, the offensive line looked terrible. Let's hope there wasn't many starters on that offensive line there, but. Yeah, I think it's a great pick. Kyler Murray, as you mentioned, came back last year, was okay. I think he was averaging 18.9 points per game, I think I saw, which was good enough for about quarterback 11, 10, I think, in that range. If you think that was him coming off like a bad injury where he wasn't running as much as he was in his pomp, then another year away from that injury, you've got to think that he'll be using his legs again. And this offense is going to be more of a high-powered offense in the second year away from his injury. So, yeah, I think he can easily finish as a top 5 quarterback this year. So, yeah, if he does, I think naturally he's still young enough where his value is going to rise higher from quarterback 11. And as Kev mentioned, then pocket passers will probably fall down a couple of spots. And Kyler Murray's got the ability to rise up to, within the top 7. So it's a solid pick, definitely.
Yeah, all really good points, but you guys missed out the most important point about Kyler Murray, and that is no new scheduled Call of Duty games to come out in the next year and a half. So we should be all good with Kyler Murray for a full season at least. Who knows about next season? But yeah, Kyler's got full focus ahead for next season without any Call of Duty to distract him. But in all seriousness as well, like Ali, you said it, we've seen what this guy can do. There's no indication looking at him on the field as to why he can't just pick up from where he left off, and he's got better weapons around him than do we say that he's ever had? Is that maybe too far?
Fair.
Because I know he had like guys towards like the tail end, like he had like Fitzgerald towards the tail end of his career, right? Manny Hopkins, but man, Marvin Harrison Jr. is an absolute animal, and yeah, I think this might be the bet. Michael Wilson up there. I mean, he's got a real good chance to rise up the ranks for sure. So I love that pick from Lewis, and I'm a big fan of our next pick because this is one that we all, I think, maybe agreed on last year, saying this is going to happen to this player. And Jack has noticed it as well, because Jack has gone for Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think we all said it, boys. This time last year, we kind of said Jackson Smith and Jigba, who came into the league, I just checked and keep trade cut. When he was first drafted, he was wide receiver 13 before he even played a snap in the NFL. He's all the way down at wide receiver 25. And if you've been listening to the show, we told you this was going to happen because of the crowded wide receiver room, because we expected him to come out slowly because he had an injury coming into the NFL. And sure enough, here we are with the buy window for Jackson Smith and Jigba, with his value dropping hugely all the way down to wide receiver 25. But Ali, is there an issue? Because do we still have the same issues as we had last year with the crowded room? What do you think about this pick?
I do and I don't. Interestingly enough, I've just spotted that 5 of the 8 players we talk about tonight, the first name begins with a J. So if you begin with your name begins with a J, you are a breakout candidate for this year. But anyway, going back from that silly nonsense, so I think this is a very solid pick. I think he's got a lot going for him in 2024, what that he didn't in 2023, and I think that he can break out. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm going to predict that he breaks out, but I think he's going to certainly take a leap from what he showed in year one, which is, I mean, not that difficult. But I think it does align for him pretty well when you look at the fact that, firstly, Pete Carroll, the absolute legend of a coach, is gone. His run-heavy scheme perhaps is now gone. I think it still will be fairly run-heavy, but perhaps more of a balanced attack. Then look at how he began his rookie year. He had that injured wrist that eventually he had to have surgery on, which he then was able to, I think he was able to make week 1, but looking at his snap percentages, it was under 60% for the first 4 games of the season. So they were clearly slowly working him back while his wrist healed fully. Then had the week 5 bye, I believe. And after that, his snap percentage was every game was over 60% mark. So he did step it up and flash some, potential. Obviously, it's a crowded wide receiver room still. But then you look to 2024, enter Ryan Grubb. We know where he came from, this Washington's high-flying college program. You look at what happened last year. He got the absolute best out of 3 wide receivers, 3 wide receiver sets. Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, the absolute stud. You kind of...
It's going to feel like deja vu in about 10 minutes.
Stay tuned. You look at that and you think, well, which of these are going to be the Jackson Smith and Jigba of this offense? Well, we're not quite sure. But what we do know is we certainly finally saw a decline from Tyler Lockett in 2023. He's going to be 32 next month in September. So, history tells us that 32-year-old wide receivers don't dominate like, Tyler Lockett's been a pretty above average wide receiver in the NFL for a number of years. But I do truly think that he's now going to be the 3rd target on that offense. With this Ryan Grubb offense coming in, I expect a leap forward for JSN in terms of usage and production. They've been talking him up of how good he looks this year. I think this is a great pick. I think you still wide receiver 25. I think his value is rising. I think the time to have really cashed in was a few weeks ago, perhaps a few months ago during the summer, where people weren't really talking about him. They're back on him now, but I still think there is room for maneuver with that wide receiver 25 on keep trade cut. Still think he's fairly cheap. So, I think his value can rise. How far it can rise, I'm not sure, because I still think DK Metcalf is a fairly dominant wide receiver. He doesn't always put it together, but he's probably going to always be the first target. So his ceiling's probably wide receiver 14, 15. So there's still room to rise, but perhaps not so much.
Yeah, Kev, what do you think about that? And just put it in perspective as well. The value in keep trade cut for Njigba, that is currently basically the exact same as a late 2024 first. So what do you think about that?
I mean, a couple of things. First of all, like we're talking, there could be a few homer picks on this show, and obviously Jack, he supports Patriots, so maybe not there, but he also supports Ohio State. Now the wide receiver factor, that could be a little bit of a hint as to why he's picked JSN. And also I think JSN, what he's done in his rookie season, is it predicting the future for Rome Odunze? I know it's a little bit of a different situation in their respective places, but I just think Rome Odunze is around that 13 to 15 range. Could he see a similar sort of pathway? And is that something we need to think about more in Dynasty, and the fact that when we're coming to rookie drafts, thinking more about redraft value year 1 to predict how the value curve will look for certain players? It's something to consider. I'm not calling anybody picking Rome Odunze in rookie drafts horrible because I've got plenty of him, but I just feel like if you're expecting him to be wide receiver 2 output in year 1, it's probably going to end up a little bit like JSN's rookie season now. I think Jackson Smith-Njuba's got tons of talent, a lot more than we saw in year 1. I don't think it was used properly. Lots of targets around the line of scrimmage. I think he's better than that. So, yeah, I think in the Seattle offense, he's going to be the 2 this season at worst. And that's with an opportunity to supplant DK Metcalf in time, because while he's a splash play guy and he has had that epic 2nd or 3rd season in the league, he just hasn't got that consistency to pull it all together yet. Could he do it in this new situation, this new offensive coordinator, this system that's going to be a lot better than it has been in the past? Potentially. So we just have to see how it all pans out. There's lots to make bets on and gamble on in this offense. I think JSN is a good bet to make at this time because we know Tyler Lockett's going to be going as well. And there's that upside that, yeah, he's got DK Metcalf to get past. But I agree with what Ali said in the sense that JSN, he can improve. Will he ever be wide receiver 1 in Dynasty? I think it is possible in time. Look, we had Deontay Johnson up there. I think, no disrespect to Johnson, but JSN's a far better prospect. So he just needs that little bit of luck with the situation and see what happens. But I think for him to win the Fantasy Wildcard Rise, he's probably going to have to jump into that top 12. And I think that might be just a little bit too much for us this season. But next season, it's very possible.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think he will definitely see an upward tick this season, but we didn't expect Lockett to be there at all, I don't think, this year. I think everyone was kind of saying he would be gone. So I think just having him there will just stunt that a little bit. But I have to say, like from personal point of all the players on this list, he's kind of the one I'm rooting for the most, I think, because I loved him so much as a prospect coming out. And I just want JSN to have a chance really here and to show what he can do and hopefully get a much bigger piece of the pie over there in Seattle. And if he can do that, I think he can easily get himself up there as that 1A, 1B, at least with DK Metcalf. I think he's definitely good enough to do that. So I love that pick from Jack. And going from Jack's sneaky homer pick to unlikely homer pick from Phil as he picks up Isaiah Likely, the tight end 2 on his Ravens. Kev, what's Phil thinking here? What's he cooking?
Yeah, I think Isaiah Likely is a pick I wasn't expecting. No, I think it's a really interesting one, the thought process on this, because I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a piece of content released a few weeks back hyping up Likely as the 2nd target in the offense or something daft like that. And I was like, what's happened to Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews? Like, they're the 1 and 2 set in stone for me. I think that there could be a world where he's the 3rd option in the pass game. You know, there's Rashad Bateman there. There's the rookie Devontae Walker, is it? And yeah, like the way they run the team, they've got Lamar Jackson, they've got the running backs. Be a lot of 12 personnel. Likely is going to be on the field quite a bit. For me, it all just depends on how much you can put on the field this season. Like, you've got Mark Andrews, a top 8 dynasty tight end. It's really difficult to get 2 on the same team in the top 10, 12 tight ends, like it happened years back with the Colts. They had Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen, I believe, and obviously the Patriots with Gronkowski and that other dude, Aaron Hernandez. I'm not going to make any jokes about him. I really wanted to, but I'm not going to. No.
About Gronk?
Yeah, oh, no. Yeah. About Gronk, that's the one. So I think Likely is one that, unless there's an injury, I can't see a big jump. But if he's the 3rd option in that offense, regardless of injury, I think he can solidify this point. And then what you're kind of hoping for, in my eyes, is a move from Likely at the end of his rookie deal. that's where you're going to see his value really spike. So, yeah, I think he's a great talent, but maybe the situation needs to improve a little bit for him to truly reach that ceiling.
Yeah, what do you think, Ali? You in agreement with Kev there?
Yeah, I was just trying to get behind the thought of Isaiah Likely. I absolutely love the pick. I mean, I love the player. I love the talent in terms of tight end talent. I think he's probably better than tight end 16 in terms of fantasy production. If he was the number one on, a half decent offense, then you're talking he's probably a top 8, top 9 dynasty tight end, which is difficult. I think it's difficult to get to with Mark Andrews. Whether Phil is factoring in another Mark Andrews injury, I'm not sure. Obviously, he knows more about the Ravens than what we do. He knows what the beat writers are saying about how they're going to play this season. And yeah, I think there is a lack of talent on the wide receiver sort of depth, the room there. It's a difficult one because I think Titan 16 is absolutely probably right for where he is now. I think he's poised to have that, be fringe tight end 1 at best, just because of, it's a difficult situation, but the talent is there. If there was an injury or if he was to get a move away, then he absolutely could move up. But I don't see where it could go right now with Mark Andrews there, because I fully expect Mark Andrews to have a bounce back season, to be the number 1 target in Baltimore, which he was before he had the injury last season. He was, I think, tight end 1 and on pace to finish as the top 2, top 3 tight end for the season. So, I really love the talent of Likely. I've drafted him quite a few times in redraft, just because if Andrews does go down, he's such a value pick. And we saw the back end of last season how he had some spike weeks and was really produced in that offense that is kind to tight ends. So maybe they're going to be more 12 personnel and run, 2 tight ends, but target Likely more often than not, and it be more of a 1A, 1B situation rather than Mark Andrews being just the dominant target there. So who knows? But yeah, absolutely love the guy. And yeah, I like the pick.
It's maybe set up a bit more that if it was any of us other guys who made the pick, will likely be like, okay. But it's because it is Phil who obviously follows the Ravens so closely. I'm like, all right, like, what do you know that we don't know? I'm kind of like, it's one of those curious ones. Obviously, he's more in depth with the Ravens than us. So maybe we are about to see that sneaky season from Likely. But again, with this, the whole point is who will rise the most according to the market. And I think where I made the point about Kyle Pitts, where people are kind of waiting to anoint him as the number 1, I think because Likely has Mark Andrews there, we'll have the opposite effect where people will, pull the reins on it a little bit and kind of not want to push him up too far, even though he may well deserve it by the end of the season. I think that might be the thing that could get in the way of Phil winning this year, is not because Likely is an amazing player, but because the market might be really hesitant to push him up. I mean, to where Mark Andrews is now, which is where he would kind of need to be to get over the line with this. But I do love the pick of Likely, and I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on it. And all right, Kevin, we get this absolute clown show out the way next, right? What? Ali, I mean, we know who he's picked. We've teased it the whole time. A bigger homer even than Hannah. You've gone for Jalen McMillan. The floor is yours.
I have gone for Jalen McMillan, to no surprise of anybody whatsoever. I just think I'm in love with Jalen McMillan. I'm sitting here, pants are off. This guy's absolutely showing up right now in training camp, and it might just be this is overreaction season. We know we overreact, especially to rookies right now. So this could just completely fade to dust. But I truly believe that this one won't. And I believe he's a much better prospect than what people are giving him credit for. So digging back to Washington days, looking at the stats, and he clearly fell off where he had the injury and Jalen Polk was able to take a step forward. But just looking at the games where they played together in that offense, they had 20 games where they were both active and healthy. the stats are, here they are. McMillan, 124 receptions to Polk's 68, 1,657 yards to 1,210 yards, 14 touchdowns to McMillan to 9 touchdowns to Polk. So it just shows that when they were healthy on the field, they were giving McMillan more targets, more of the offense than they were to Jalen Polk. That's not to take away from Jalen Polk. I think he's going to be a very good wide receiver in his own right. But I just think that McMillan was there to be the 1B to Roma Dunze. But obviously injuries and then durability concerns stepped in. Looking at his college stats, he missed 5 games across 3 seasons due to 3 different injuries: ankle, hand, and knee injuries. And that's where Jalen Polk stepped in, and fully praised to him. And he's potentially the wide receiver 1 in New England, so good for him. But McMillan, I think, has landed in a fairly decent spot. Done well at the combine, ran a 4.47. Look at his breakdown of his prospect. He's a great route runner, really good acceleration. He's been separating really well. I would have loved to have seen him come in and project to be the slot guy for the Buccaneers in year 1 if they'd have kept Chris Godwin outside. But Chris Godwin has been touted to move into the slot where he was dominant. Wide receiver 2 finish back in 2019. But yeah, just looking at what we've been seeing in training camp, he's been absolutely dominant. He's been one of Baker Mayfield's go-to targets. The beat writers are just waxing lyrical about Jalen McMillan over and over. He's been targeted. He's easily winning that wide receiver 3 role, which was, touted to be for Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer himself had a decent year last year. Perhaps he was going to take that step forward, but it seems to be Jalen McMillan is really taken that up. And I just think this now gives the Buccaneers an extra edge on offense. They're not having to rely on Mike Evans and Chris Godwin all the time, especially because those two that, their bodies have been breaking down the last few years and there's been several injuries. So this is where I see, the value rising. We talk about Jalen McMillan. What is he on Keep Trade Cut? He is wide receiver 70. So this is where I think, digging down, I can see a value rise. Chris Godwin is effectively in the final year of his contract in Tampa Bay. Mike Evans is obviously re-signed for 2 years. He's 31 years old next week. So, he's going to have 1,000 yards because he always has 1,000 yards, but he's not going to be the long-term answer. I do truly think that Jalen McMillan could be the long-term starter for the Buccaneers. And at wide receiver 70, I can see that rising fairly heavily. Perhaps, if there's news that Chris Godwin is, they're talking about getting another deal done with him, but if they can't work it out, if the Buccaneers have a truly tragic season and they blow it up again heading into next year, they're going to release Chris Godwin and, McMillan's going to be the wide receiver 2 with an aging Mike Evans. So I can see realistically him being a top 50 wide receiver this time next year with potential to be top 40 if it all goes to plan, and Chris Godwin does leave and he has a really good rookie year. So yeah, the sky's the limit, I think, for what could be in the future. And in terms of this year, I think he's going to have a fairly decent rookie season.
Kev, your response?
I mean, I'm wearing purple tonight, and obviously Jalen McMillan wore a bit of purple in college, didn't he? So I should come out and bat for him, really. I think, first of all, a lot will be made of Evans and Godwin, right? In the passing offense, we're not going to count Rashad White. 63 receptions of running back, nothing really, is it? But K. Dotton, he's terrible. He is a nothing, so we don't have to think about him. I think there is outs for him to have a really strong season, end up being top 50, top 40. I think Ali's probably right with his thinking and thought process in that ballpark, definitely. I think if this was a fantasy wildcard over 2-3 years, I think it's an even better pick because I really struggle, because I'm so high on Evans and Godwin, I struggle to be high on someone else as well in that passing offense. So I like the player. He's someone that I sort of came to the party on him later on as we grew into the off season. I think he'll have a good year 1. I think he'll rise in value, but I'm not sure how high he'll go in value.
I mean, apart from that, you've got an absolute joner for Jalen McMillan, Ali. We've we do agree on a lot of points. I'm glad you brought up the one about last year in college, where I was watching Washington, and then whenever I seen Polk was being regarded as like the better wide receiver, it's like, well, Polk was clearly the third guy for Washington. Like McMillan was clearly the second guy, and Odunze was clearly the first guy. So I am glad that they brought that up, because that was definitely the case, watching the games and on stats as well. I think McMillan is a really, really good player. It is interesting, and I don't know if we know exactly when the cutoff point is, like, because you could get sneaky here where if that Godwin isn't going to re-sign, and if, God forbid, Mike Evans' age finally catches up to him, he could keep ticking up even after the season has ended. So I suppose this could be heavily reliant on when Kev decides to put the cutoff date.
Yeah, we'll see.
On the wild card, right? We'll see how Kev's pick does, and
yeah.
We'll see if you're anywhere close to him, Ali, he'll cut you off right away. But I actually do really like the pick. I think, like we said with other picks, you got to go, diving deep down for some of these players, and all the way down at wide receiver 70. Jalen McMillan isn't the 70th best receiver in Dynasty Valley for me. He's got to be further up there, even now. So I do actually really like the pick, even though it is a homer pick, which doesn't shock anyone.
Just putting it out there, you stole my first or my second pick. Canna stole my first pick, so I had to choose someone, and I wasn't choosing Ronald Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. So going on from Jalen McMillan to, shockingly, another J, believe it or not, because Kev, you've gone for a rookie who's already ranked quite highly, but you love this guy, right? This is your guy, Jaden Daniels. He's currently quarterback 12. Kev, are you thinking this guy can make it all the way to the top?
Well, you're going to find out very, very soon. I think, obviously, I'm wearing purple tonight. It's not because of Jalen McMillan. It's not because of Isaiah Likely. It's that purple of LSU. Jaden Daniels, I mean, bringing the fire. Look, it's not a surprise for people. I'm picking Jaden Daniels as someone I've been vocal about this offseason. I think, taking a step back, like your wildcard selections that people give, a lot of it is to do with who they want to root for, because you're wanting to see this player rise in value. So a lot of people pick players from their own team that support because they want to do that, or they'll pick players that they've got an affinity to, that they think is undervalued, and they want to see them do well. So, yeah, Eagles fan here picking a Commanders QB, really, really logical. I think he's someone that, when I look at last season, thinking about keep trade cut on the market, Anthony Richardson played 2 games. He jumped up to top 6, top 7 QB based on 2 games, which was outstanding for fantasy. Like, imagine if Anthony Richardson had 8 games or all 17 games. Just pause there. Now think about this. CJ Stroud, who was good for fantasy, like as a pocket passing QB, he went up to QB1 at keep trade cut at one point.
Yeah.
I think if Jaden Daniels, he probably has to play all 17 games. He'll have to obviously make some adjustments to the pros in terms of holding onto the ball, running away. Like we've said before, like the ball's coming after him and he's like a matador. There's things he's got to do. But when I'm thinking just fantasy points and how the market would react to this elite dual threat guy that's already putting highlights up in preseason, both as a passer and as a rusher. Honestly, if everything goes perfect for Jaden Daniels, why can't he be viewed as a QB 3, 2, 1? Boom. In Dynasty. Like, people aren't going to like that, but you can. CJ Stroud was there, and if you're just thinking numbers, that were ridiculous in itself, but that's how the market reacts. He's someone that I think he doesn't need amazing weapons around him. People are going to say Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, etc. Look at the dual threat QBs. Like when Lamar had his amazing season, he didn't have a ton of stellar weapons outside him. He was doing that off the back of his rushing and like Mark Andrews will say. So I think it's in the realm of possibilities that it makes a big jump. For him to win this Fantasy Wildcard Risers thing, he's going to have to jump into that top 5. But when I think of the guys between him and 5, I think there's a lot of possibility there with the pocket passes. Things have got to go his way. Like Anthony Richardson's not got to hit his ceiling. Maybe your Hurts has got to take a step back. Maybe Allen takes a small step back. But I really believe in Jaden Daniels. He's someone that I want to root for. Do you know what? It could end up being the next Justin Fields, who would have also been a pick of mine if somebody hadn't stolen him, and that's coming up soon. So yeah, I think there's a wide range of possibilities, but I'm shooting for upside, and I want to pick someone that I want to root for. Go Birds.
Yeah, no, I love that. Ali, what do you think about Jaden Daniels as a wild card pick? Because for me, he's like the name Wildcard. Jaden Daniels just go hand in hand, right?
Yeah, what an absolute terrible pick, Kev. Awful pick. No, I'm absolutely fully on board. I'd love to have come and roasted you for this pick, but no, big lover of Jaden Daniels. Just, you know, the dual threat quarterback, you know, say no more. I think he's gone to a great situation where he's clearly starting. They've signed Martavis Bryant today. The absolute corpse of a bloke. Not caught a pass in 6 years, but yeah, I don't know what that says about the wide receiver depth chart there. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy that at quarterback 12, I'm all in on. I've taken him in many spots. And yeah, again, a bit like he's in that Kyler Murray range where, you know, with a decent season, especially in his rookie year. And like Kev mentioned, he's not actually got to show a massive amount. He's just not got a flop like a Bryce Young did last year. He's got to show some rushing ability. His passing is there. We saw it with that beautiful pass in preseason. Yeah, I think the ceiling for Jaden Daniels is top 5, top 6. You know, with a really good showing, we saw what CJ Stroud managed to do. And CJ Stroud didn't really put up, you know, a huge amount of fantasy points, yet he's quarterback 4 in Dynasty. So it just shows that for a rookie to come in with high draft capital, you know, the same capital that CJ Stroud got, you know, if the offense is better than we expected, he could easily be a top 5 quarterback in Dynasty this time next year. So I hate to say it, Kev, but it is a great pick. I hope you don't win again. But I have a feeling that his value is going to rise. It's just by how much is it going to rise?
Yeah, I really like the pick as well. Like I said before, I think Wildcard and Jaden Daniels, that is just, yeah, he is the complete wildcard of all the quarterbacks coming into the NFL this year. It wouldn't shock me if at any stage during the season, you are in the lead in this in terms of keep, trade, cut points.
We'll stop it.
It's if he can keep that going, because we know how volatile the market is. And with Daniels, he could have 4 or 5 games on the bounce where, I mean, he had that absolutely ridiculous game for LSU last year where I think he had 600 plus scrimmage yards, which is absolutely like ludicrous. So he has that in his locker where he can put up games in a row, which are just unbelievable. But then he could just get absolutely smashed for a couple of games as well. So it wouldn't shock me to see you at the peak point. You could definitely be in the lead, but with Daniels, it's just, can he get that consistency? Can he do it? Man, I really hope so, because he's a lot of fun to watch, and I hope we get to watch him for a lot of years. So that'll be a nice player to win this, because yeah, Daniels is a hell of a lot of fun to watch, and we've got the rest out of the way, guys. Let's talk about the best pick, shall we? Because we've still got to chat about my fantasy wildcard pick, the one I stole off you boys. So you shouldn't let me go first, because I can't believe none of our amazing guests have picked this guy. But Justin Fields was still on the board for me. He's currently quarterback 28. Let's remember, Justin Fields was ranked as high as QB6 at one stage. You know the worst point about this, boys? I don't even like him that much. I just took the value.
We know.
Like, Like, this is just, and this is kind of a tip for playing Dynasty, right? Don't always just go after your guys. If the value's there, you got to take it. And I see Justin Fields here, QB 28. It's like, how do I not take him? Like, this is just a chance for the market to readjust. If Fields can wrestle that job from Russell Wilson, which, let's be honest, I think everyone thinks is he at least got a chance. And do I think Russell Wilson will do something to lose that job? Probably. And we've seen it only takes a couple of games. Fields can come in. If he ends the season strong with a shot, then he could bounce right back up inside that top 15. Maybe tricky for him to get into the top 12 because of what we've seen. But yeah, I couldn't say no to the value. But I'm sure you boys will tell me a little bit more about why I should have picked him. Never mind the value, right? So Ali, I'll pitch to you first. You obviously wanted to pick Fields. Tell us about why.
Yeah, you're such a cock block, Mags. you literally have no interest, but you just wanted to pick him just so that me and Kev couldn't have him.
Yeah. And I couldn't pick Daniel Bellinger again.
I think it absolutely speaks for itself. Quarterback 28, which I think even in itself has risen recently, just with, I think, the news that Russell Wilson is, he's been injured the last few weeks. He's not been able to practice with the ones. There's been Justin Fields, which has been, met with a mixed response. I think he's been okay. And I think there's absolutely a chance that he is the quarterback one, possibly even start the season if Russell Wilson doesn't come back healthy. I think the Pittsburgh hierarchy have come out and officially said now that it's a quarterback battle in camp, whereas before it was Russell Wilson is a quarterback one. Now it is officially a quarterback battle, which is really interesting. For me, this stage of their careers, I probably see Justin Fields as the better quarterback, probably gives them more chance to win. It is obviously more of a wild card. They won with games with Kenny Pickett last year, unbelievably, with his lack of ability to throw any touchdowns whatsoever. But if they play it safe, then they're going to try and get Russell Wilson back to health. Govaz, Justin Fields, I think, at least will be the starting quarterback at some point this season. You got to look at someone like, I don't want to bring him up because I'm a homer, but Baker Mayfield has come from obscurity. He's got himself, he come with a year to test himself at the Buccaneers, got himself a contract. He's now top 25. It's not massive, but top 25 dynasty quarterback. Now add in if it was Justin Fields with his rushing ability, if Baker Mayfield had Fields' rushing ability, he'd probably be a top 17, 18 quarterback, which would, be a significant jump from where he is right now. So I just think I can't see any reason why his value can't possibly double this time, by the end of the season, and be a top 17, 18 quarterback. If he can, hold down the job, have a decent season for Pittsburgh, them talking about giving him an extension, because I don't think he would attract big money in terms of, paying his contract. I think he'll just be happy to accept, a 2-3 year deal at the sort of Baker Mayfield type level. So, if that happens, you've won this. We can crown you now, Mags, that he's going to be the winner. I think that if I was to say which player is more likely to win the wild card, I'd probably go for Fields. And yeah, you're a smart guy, Mags, for taking him away from me and Kev.
Thank you for that. I'm absolutely. Kev, please continue praising me.
Yeah, I mean, you'll often find it in these sort of competitions where people say, "Oh, if I don't win, I hope this person wins." Well, actually, I hope you win, and if you don't win, I hope I win, Mags. Because Justin Fields, if he wins this, if he smashes it, and he's like top 12 QB again, I'm going to be insufferable. Like I'm going to be finally taking that big trap that I deserve. Look, I think he's a guy that, for fantasy, purely like game to game base, I think he's great. I came unstuck on obviously the losing the starting job, and yeah, I do think it was kind of harsh in a sense, the fact that he left and then they give all these weapons to the new guy. But I totally get it, and I'm here for it. Like, I think he's got it in his locker. You'll know if you've been listening to me long enough that I'm a massive Justin Fields fanboy. So it's a fantastic pick. If it hits anywhere near his ceiling, it's going to be an easy rising value at a position in Dynasty, which is worth the most at QB. So yeah, I'm fully expecting to see you crowned. And actually, the song that I hear in my head is Chumbawamba Tub Thumping. So yeah, if you don't know what that is,
Google it.
YouTube it.
Google it. And by this time where this pod comes out, they might have Brandon Ayuk as a wide receiver as well. So it just gives this more fuel to the fire that we may as well just crown you right now, Mags.
You know what? I'll take it. We don't have to run the competition this year, and even if he's not, I've already won anyway. So I'll have to swing by Matt Thornton's house to pick up the wildcard crown from him after last year. And guys,
don't give him any praise. Don't give him any praise.
Sorry, yeah.
I
can't go by his shelf.
Put a shelf
on me. Yeah. And with that brings us to the end of the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show, where we reveal to you our fantastic wildcard selections from us at the Dynasty show, and of course the great guys over at the Rewind and the Devi team as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Remember, you can find us over on X and on YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard, at Wildcard Dynasty, and look it over for the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network over on YouTube. Boys, any final thoughts for the show? Hell of a good time to have the best team back.
I mean, we are the best three. The proof in the pudding will be when we look at the wildcard picks. Will we still be the best three? Even if we're not, we're still going to be the best three. Just remember that. So, yeah, it's been a great show. It's been a lot of fun. It's flown by. And, yeah, just I think in future years, just look out for picking someone that begins with J.
Yeah, absolutely. Ali, you agree? And you're looking out for anyone beginning with J for next season, right?
I mean, you have to. I think even looking at last year's picks, I believe we mentioned that J was a lot of the most common name. So yeah, I mean, if you begin with J, look out. You're a breakout star for this year. If I was to pick a winner, I'm not going to go for you, Mags, because we've already crowned you. Look out for Jermaine Burton. I think Jermaine Burton's gonna take it home for Hannah this year. So come on, you Bengals.
Jalen Milroe.
Jalen Milroe could be absolutely anyone, which is the beauty of the Fantasy Wildcard show, and that's why we love everybody tuning in. And hey, we'll see you guys real soon. Bye.
When you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.